wonderful humans, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy, and if you are new here, I produce PhD content or study related content, but mainly PhD content with a little bit of queer and a little bit of travel chucked in every now and then. And today I want to talk all about how to balance PhD research with work, paid work. If you are a humanities PhD, which I gather most of you are from the comments and the messages I receive from you, you will know that it is very rare to be a fully funded PhD student studying a humanities topic, and because of that, a lot of us work alongside doing PhDs, or, you know, we have to find other ways of making money because we might only be part funded, or our funding might be very patchy. Or, like me, you might be completely self-funded. So today I want to talk all about how I balance PhD research with work that I get paid for, and hopefully give you some things I've learned along the way. First thing that I found really useful when I was thinking about the kind of work I wanted to do alongside my PhD was really looking at my working style and the kind of work that I not necessarily enjoyed doing, but already knew about, found quite easy, and wouldn't hate doing. And I think the reason these two for me were important is because what work I was doing and how the work I was doing was structured would really impact my day-to-day and ultimately my PhD research. So I identified for me pretty early on that I wanted jobs that gave me a lot of flexibility in terms of location, in terms of when I could do them, and ultimately in terms of the hours I could do. So because of that, I work freelance in social media marketing. I do social media content for the University of Birmingham as their PhD ambassador or PG ambassador, and I also do a couple of other stuff for them, like voiceovers and things like that, but it all falls under my role as PG ambassador for the University of Birmingham in their marketing team. And then I also do social media content for a wine company, and that is really more about structuring their social media, coming up with content, creating ideas. So you can see they're quite similar but subtly different, I guess. No, they're pretty similar. Basically, I produce social media content, and I suppose the reason I picked these types of jobs were twofold. One, I had experience in social media, so I had that previous knowledge. I wasn't necessarily going to have to learn completely new skills. I mean, I think in anything you do, you're always learning, but I had that base knowledge. Two, I wouldn't be tied to locations, as I said before. I wouldn't be tied to certain times. As long as I did the work and I got my deadlines, I could kind of work whenever I wanted. And for me, that was really important because I knew I wasn't someone who thrived on having a really structured schedule and not being in control of my own schedule. I did not want to be in a job like retail. I've worked retail before. I actually really enjoy retail. I like talking to the customers. I like the challenge that kind of stock presents and all that kind of stuff. One of those weird people, I quite enjoy retail, but I knew I didn't want a retail job during the PhD because I didn't want to be tied to shifts. I didn't want there to be big long chunks of the day where I couldn't do any work, even if I wasn't particularly busy at my job, because we all know there's downtime in any job you do. And also I knew with retail jobs that your hours could be very out of your control. You could suddenly be called in for a shift, asked to change, work a different thing that you would usually work. And I didn't want that. I wanted a situation where I was very much in control of my hours, so that if I had a PhD deadline or if I had a family emergency crop up, I could still work everything around my schedule and make the balance of PhD research and paid work for me. Now, having said that, I know some people are the opposite. I have friends who really thrive on having a clear separation between PhD research and work. And by that I mean they go to a place, be it working in a cafe, working in a hotel, working in retail, whatever, but they can go to a physical location. Once they're there, they don't have to worry about anything. They do the work, they clock out, and it's done. And then the rest of the time is theirs. And they like that because they don't have to set their own hours. They don't have any pressure to really I mean, yes, they have to perform well, but they don't have any pressure to hit deadlines. They go in, they do their shift, and then they clock out, and the rest of the time is theirs. So really, I think you need to look at what kind of work style works for you, how you want to manage your time. Do you want to be able to manage your own time, or do you actually just want someone else to kind of manage it for you? You know you're going to get a set amount of time each week, and you'll figure out your PhD research around that. That's the first thing I think it's really important to look at when you are starting to think about how you're going to balance PhD research with paid work. I think the second thing that it is important to look at is, even if you are, like me, working in a more freelance capacity and setting your own hours, so to speak, make sure you put in boundaries and keep a balance. I use an app called Habitica. I've only just started using it. My friend Reese, who I did a video with, recommended it to me, and it has helped me so much because I can put all of my monthly PhD deadlines in there, all of my work deadlines. You can categorize it, you can set different times, difficulties, and it basically means that I load that up whenever I get a task. I set the due date, and then every morning I just go on and I'm like, okay, I've got these things I need to do that are coming up soon. And it also rewards you, and it has a kind of like a D&D fantasy style to it. So it's pretty fun way to do tasks that's different from other kind of list task management apps I've used. So for me, that app has been really useful in setting the boundaries between my work time, my PhD research time, and my fun time, because I think when you set your own hours, like most humanities students do, and like freelancers do, there is a temptation to feel you have to work all the time. And it's not healthy. It just isn't. You will burn out, you will exhaust yourself, and you won't be performing at your best. So having something like Habitica or some other task management list app, whatever, means that part of that is taken out of my hands, because I don't constantly have to hold in my head all the things I need to be doing that week or that day or that month. I just rely on the app. And it also means that I can clearly see when I've maybe got too much of one thing, too much of another, or maybe I haven't taken enough time to see friends recently. And I think this is where, yes, the app is helpful, but there is also an internal thing you have to do where you have to say to yourself, it's just a PhD. It's just a job. And that sounds awful, but at the end of the day, it is just a PhD and it is just a job. What is more important is your mental health, your physical health. And if you don't take time for yourself by seeing friends, reading a book, going for a walk, whatever kind of forms of self-care you do, be it long-term or short-term, you need to prioritize them over PhD work or even work, because frankly, at the end of the day, you are more important than what you produce. And it will take a while to learn those boundaries. I did not know those boundaries when I started. I have learned them over the last 2 odd years that I've been balancing research and work. So the final thing I want to look at when considering balancing research and work is make your supervisors aware of your situation. I'm a full-time PhD student with 2 part-time jobs. My supervisors know this, and they are very conscious of checking in with me, making sure I don't feel overloaded, making sure that I'm able to manage things. And I think that's really important, because I know people, I wouldn't say they're my friends, but I know people doing a PhD who are doing full-time jobs and almost a full-time PhD because they haven't been clear with their supervisors, or they haven't pushed back when their supervisor says, okay, I expect all this work from you. If your supervisor asks you to do something and you know that physically that's not possible unless you pull all-nighters for the rest of the month, push back, say, yeah, I think that's a really good idea, but keep in mind I work X number of hours, and I'm taking a week off for holiday, so I think I'll only be able to achieve this. And that can be really hard to do. It sounds very simple, but it's actually quite hard to stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself and your time. But it's so important, because at the end of the day, as a PhD student, you don't have a boss as such to check in with. You don't have someone who you can go to and say, oh, my workload's been a bit crazy right now. I think I need some help here. It's just you. So you have to be your own advocate. You have to be your own kind of boss in the sense of knowing what you can commit to and what is too much. And again, this is a skill that you have to learn, but I think it's a really important one. Similarly, if you are working a freelance style job or a job where you kind of take on assignment-based things, in contrast to, I'm going to call it shift-based work, but what I mean by that is in-person work where you go in, you do your hours and you clock out. Also push back on your bosses. If you are asked to do something by a client, or if you work freelance but for a single company by your bosses, say, yes, but please remember I only work this amount of hours, so it's going to take me X number of weeks. Is that okay? You don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to say no to everything, but just make people aware of your time commitments and of what you can realistically achieve based on how many hours a week you can give to something. So that's kind of the main pieces of advice I wanted to share, and I wanted to share this because I've had friends recently who have started the PhD 6 months ago or whatever, and they were asking me questions about this, and it made me realise that it's not always obvious how you can juggle things. If you have any questions on this topic, feel free to leave a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram. I know I've been a bit patchy lately, but I do always reply to messages, even if it takes me a few weeks. And I am trying to be better about replying more instantly. I've just had a lot going on in my personal life that has made it difficult for me to be as online as usual. But yeah, that's the video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye!